curious. Imagine taking a quiet morning walk along the North Carolina coast. The tide rolls in, the sun is out, and there are a few seashells scattered in the sand. Now imagine that same beach walk ending in a federal indictment carrying up to 10 years in prison. That is exactly what happened to former FBI Director James Comey. The controversy centers entirely on a picture Comey posted to Instagram showing shells arranged to spell out 8647. In restaurant industry slang, to 86 an item means to cancel it or get rid of it, and 47 is a direct reference to Donald Trump, the 47th President of the United States. Comey claims he viewed the arrangement as a benign political message. Once followers pointed out that some people associate the number 86 with physical violence, he deleted the post, stating publicly that he opposes violence of any kind. But taking the post down didn't stop the Justice Department. What started as an ill-advised social media post has collided with the immense prosecutorial power of the federal government, testing the absolute outer boundaries of free speech. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche argues this is a necessary prosecution. From the Department of Justice's perspective, any threat to the president's life must be taken seriously, especially following recent, real-world acts of political violence. This indictment document lays out two specific felony charges. The first falls under Title 18, Section 871, for threatening the president. The second is under Section 875C, for transmitting a threat across state lines. To secure a conviction on these charges, prosecutors have to convince a jury of a specific legal standard, that a reasonable recipient familiar with the context would look at the seashells and interpret them as a serious expression of intent to cause harm. The government insists this wasn't a snap decision. They point to a rigorous, year-long investigation involving Secret Service interviews and a full grand jury presentation before moving forward with an arrest warrant. The public reaction split immediately along partisan lines. Trump administration allies framed the post as a literal call for assassination. Meanwhile, civil liberties groups like the ACLU condemned the charges, calling the prosecution a blatant abuse of power. Convincing a jury of a crime now depends entirely on whether prosecutors can prove intent through nothing more than a deleted, cryptic string of numbers on a vacation photo. That strategy faces the massive weight of the First Amendment. The Constitution sets an exceptionally high bar for criminalizing speech, relying on a concept called the true threat doctrine. In the 1969 case, Watts v. United States, the court ruled an anti-war protester's claim to get the president in his sights was protected speech. The justices defined that language as political hyperbole, completely separate from an actionable true threat. The court set another strict boundary with the Brandenburg precedent. For speech to be prosecuted as criminal incitement, it must be directed to producing imminent, immediate lawless action. There has to be a direct line between the words and an impending crime. Applying those legal precedents to Comey's post reveals the gap between the government's case and a criminal conviction. A static, ambiguous image of seashells lacks the immediacy required for incitement and fits within the court's historical protections for political hyperbole. Because securing a conviction for political hyperbole is highly improbable under existing law, legal scholars are heavily scrutinizing the Justice Department's underlying motives for bringing this specific case into federal court. This scrutiny makes more sense when you zoom out. This seashell case is actually the Trump administration's second attempt to federally indict James Comey in just the past few months. In September of 2025, the Justice Department secured an indictment against him on charges of making false statements to Congress and obstructing an inquiry related to the Russia investigation. But that entire case collapsed in November. A federal judge threw out the charges after ruling that the lead prosecutor, a known Trump loyalist, had been unlawfully appointed to her position. While the Justice Department publicly maintains that no one is above the law, Comey's defense team argues a very different reality. They claim this second prosecution is driven by the president's well-documented personal animus toward his former FBI director. Comey is not an isolated target. Other high-profile political adversaries, including New York Attorney General Letitia James, have faced similar federal scrutiny from the exact same prosecutorial apparatus. In federal law enforcement, there is a saying, "The process is the punishment." The sheer weight, astronomical cost, and severe stress of fighting a federal criminal investigation acts as a tool of intimidation, regardless of whether a jury ever returns a guilty verdict. The upcoming legal battle serves as a historical stress test for the independence of the American justice system, measuring exactly how its most powerful tools can be weaponized.